In the sunlit kitchen, Jennifer stood at the stove, skillfully flipping pancakes. The aroma of fluffy pancakes wafted through the room, mingling with the sweet scent of maple syrup. The clock showed 6:30 in the morning. Outside the window, bird songs pierced the early morning stillness, and dew glistened on the neighbors' lawns. Dressed in a simple dress with a white apron, Jennifer was busy with her usual morning routine. Her ability to scan work documents while cooking pancakes with one hand was a skill she'd perfected over 3 years as a single mother. "Mom, it smells wonderful." Kevin's voice rang out, accompanied by the sound of feet rushing down the stairs. Her son burst into the kitchen in his pajamas, his large brown eyes sparkling with excitement. The blue and white striped pajamas were getting a bit short. "He's grown again," Jennifer thought. "Good morning, Kevin," Jennifer smiled as she turned around. "These are my special pancakes. It's a special day, after all." "Yay!" Kevin threw his hands up in joy. "I finished my craft project homework too." The teacher praised me. As she nodded at her son's innocent report, Jennifer mentally reviewed her schedule. After breakfast, she needed to do a final check of her work presentation, followed by an afternoon meeting with a new client. Her reputation as an interior designer was slowly growing, but she couldn't afford to let her guard down. The past 3 years as a single mother hadn't been easy, juggling work and childcare, but she'd found ways to make it work. As she arranged pancakes on the kitchen counter, the phone suddenly rang. Seeing "Mom" on the screen, Jennifer hesitated for a moment. Conversations with her mother always brought tension. Her mother, Barbara, always dressed in luxury brands and concerned with appearances, had never accepted her daughter's divorce. "Good morning, Jennifer." Her mother's voice from the receiver was unusually cheerful. Jennifer felt her back straighten instinctively. "This is rare, calling so early." "I have a wonderful suggestion," Barbara continued. "Let's have a family vacation next weekend at a private beach. Susan and Robert will be joining us. It'll be a perfect opportunity to strengthen our family bonds." Jennifer frowned. Since the divorce, her relationship with her family had become complicated. Her mother, in particular, saw the divorce as shameful and often made cutting remarks. Her sister Susan, decked out in flashy clothes and accessories, would boast about her wealthy married life and barely concealed her disdain for her sister's circumstances. Their father Robert, indecisive as always, simply went along with his wife's wishes, his graying hair and tired expression telling their own story. "Are you planning to bring Kevin?" "Of course. I want to see my grandson." Her mother's voice carried an unnatural cheerfulness. Jennifer looked at her son. Kevin was watching her with an expectant expression, his cheeks full of pancake. "Are we going to see Grandma?" His eyes sparkled. His innocent smile made Jennifer's heart waver. "All right, we'll join you." Even after hanging up, something felt off. This sudden invitation from her usually cold mother. Instead of starting with criticism of her daughter's life choices as usual, today was different. However, seeing Kevin's excited face, that uneasy feeling gradually faded. "Hey, Kevin," Jennifer sat next to her son and gently stroked his hair. "We're going to the beach with Grandma and everyone next weekend. You can look forward to it." "Yay!" Kevin jumped up with joy. "Can I collect seashells? I want to use them for my crafts." "Yes, of course," Jennifer hugged her son tenderly. "We'll collect lots of them." The morning sun bathed the kitchen in golden light as mother and son continued their breakfast. The leaves of the houseplant by the window swayed gently in the breeze. To Jennifer, this peaceful morning scene seemed like it would last forever. About 2 hours after departing from Miami's port, the white yacht approached a small uninhabited island in the Caribbean. The transparent blue surface of the sea reflected the sunlight, creating a dazzling brilliance. White clouds drifted peacefully above the endless horizon. Kevin, standing at the bow feeling the wind, let out an excited shout. "Mom, look! Dolphins!" The passengers cheered at the sight of dolphins swimming alongside the boat. Kevin's eyes sparkled as he watched them leap gracefully. Jennifer placed her hand on her son's shoulder, wearing a gentle smile. She had decided on this trip for her son's sake. Behind her expensive sunglasses, Barbara muttered something. Just like a scene from a movie, her voice had an eerie undertone. Susan sat with her husband Tom in deck chairs, sipping expensive champagne. Robert stood alone at the stern, seemingly lost in thought. As they approached the island, its features became clearer. A white sandy beach curved in a gentle arc, backed by dense palm trees. It was like a scene from a postcard. At the island's highest point stood an old white lighthouse. The deteriorating building seemed to gaze lonely at the sky. "It's a lighthouse built in the 1950s, Robert explained, his voice trembling slightly. "It's not used anymore, but it's the island's landmark." When they reached the dock, the family began unloading their luggage. Susan, wearing a flashy swimsuit under a flowing chiffon cover-up, carried an expensive cooler with her husband. There was something rushed about their movements. "Jennifer, why don't you and Kevin go play on the beach?" Barbara suggested. Her eyes flickered slightly beneath her perfect makeup. "We can handle the luggage." Though something felt off about those words, Jennifer nodded when she saw her son's expectant eyes. Kevin had already started jogging toward the sandy beach. The white beach was more beautiful than imagined, with crystal-clear waves gently lapping at the shore. The sand felt soft under their feet, and colorful seashells were scattered along the waterline. Kevin immediately became absorbed in collecting shells. "Mom, look at this." Her son proudly held up a starfish-shaped shell. It gleamed with a pearly luster in the sunlight. "I can use this for my school craft project." As Jennifer walked along the beach with her son, she occasionally checked on her family. They were carrying luggage to a spot slightly away from the beach, engaged in what appeared to be an intense discussion. Their gestures were emphatic, and their occasional glances in her direction were concerning. Her father seemed to shake his head several times but finally nodded with a deep sigh. As the afternoon heat intensified, her mother approached. Behind her perfect smile, some other emotion seemed to lurk. "We're going to get some supplies," Barbara announced in an unusually gentle tone, quite different from her typical haughty manner. Her white linen dress swayed in the sea breeze. "We'll pick up what we need at the market we saw on the way to the island." Those words sent a wave of anxiety through Jennifer. They had loaded everything they needed before departure. Besides, she hadn't heard of any market in this area. But before she could voice these concerns, her family had already started loading things onto the boat. Their efficiency suggested this had been planned. "Mom?" Jennifer called out suddenly. Something was wrong. Everything was wrong. The moment she felt this instinctively, the boat's engine roared to life. "Wait! Where are you going?" Jennifer screamed desperately. She ran across the beach. Ignoring the burning sensation of hot sand against her bare feet, she sprinted desperately to the water's edge. But the boat had already left the shore. Her mother wore a cold smile as she slowly spoke. Cruel eyes gleamed beneath her perfect makeup. We won't be coming back. Paradise suits you better, don't you think? Mom, I'm scared. Kevin clutched Jennifer's hand with a trembling voice. His small hand was cold with sweat. Please, everyone. Think about Kevin. To Jennifer's desperate cry, her mother delivered her final words. Goodbye, Jennifer. Enjoy your paradise. The white yacht grew smaller and smaller. Susan didn't even look back, continuing to sip champagne with her husband. Her father kept his head down, gripping the railing tightly. Only the gentle sound of waves reached the ears of the stranded mother and son. Jennifer's mind went blank. Her knees gave way, and she collapsed onto the sand. Beside her, Kevin began to cry. Faced with this unbelievable reality, her thoughts seemed to freeze. Events from the past few days raced through her mind like a film reel: her mother's sudden invitation, the unnatural kindness, their rushed behavior. It had all been planned. As dusk approached, the sky began to turn crimson. The sound of waves that had seemed beautiful earlier now felt ominous. Checking their belongings, they found only a small bag containing a water bottle, light snacks, towels, and Kevin's craft kit. The cell phone showed no signal. The "no service" message on the screen forcefully reminded them of their situation. Jennifer surveyed the island. No passing ships in sight, no means of communication. Limited food. And an 8-year-old son trembling with fear. Waves of terror, anger, and deep sadness washed over her. It's okay, Kevin, she forced herself to keep her voice steady. Though trying to put on a brave face, tears spilled from her eyes. Mom will find a way to get us out of here. Jennifer couldn't sleep at all while waiting for dawn. The sound of crashing waves sometimes seemed like her mother's cold laughter. Kevin, exhausted, slept in his mother's arms. Looking at his young sleeping face in the moonlight, her heart ached. When the sun began to rise, Kevin woke up. Jennifer gently caressed her son's cheek as he wore an anxious expression. Good morning, Kevin. Let's look for water first. Jennifer stood up, careful to keep her voice from trembling. We'll explore the island. I'm sure we'll find something interesting. She checked the contents of their small bag. The water bottle was still half full, but it wouldn't last long. For food, they had just a few snacks. And Kevin's precious craft kit, containing scissors, a utility knife, screwdrivers, pliers, and other tools. Mom, look at that. In the direction Kevin pointed, palm trees grew thickly. They could see fruit hanging from them. Those are coconuts. I saw on TV during craft time that they have water inside. Jennifer found hope in her son's knowledge. Together, they began collecting fallen coconuts. Using a screwdriver from Kevin's craft kit, they managed to make a hole in the shell after some effort. Clear liquid flowed out. Kevin, your knowledge really helped. Jennifer hugged her son. I couldn't have done it alone. Those words brightened Kevin's face a little. What should we look for next? They began exploring the island. Beyond the palm trees, they found banana trees. While some fruits were still green, others looked ripe enough to eat. Further in, they discovered a small stream. The water was clear and could be drinkable if boiled. Kevin, I wonder if we can make fire, Jennifer pondered. Is there anything useful in your craft kit? Kevin opened his craft kit with a serious expression. The teacher taught us. If we have a magnifying glass. Kevin took out the magnifying glass from his craft kit and began gathering fallen leaves. As the sunlight grew stronger, they succeeded in starting a fire using the magnifying glass. Jennifer felt surprise and pride in her son's ingenuity. "Mom, am I being helpful?" "Yes, very much so," Jennifer answered, holding back tears. "You're such a clever boy." After boiling water and having a simple meal of bananas and coconuts, they decided to look for shelter from rain. While walking around the island in the hot sun, they found a natural hollow behind a large rock. "We could take shelter from rain and wind here." However, Kevin's eyes were fixed on something else. The white building looming beyond the hollow, the old lighthouse. "Mom, should we explore inside the lighthouse?" Jennifer hesitated for a moment. The decaying building might be dangerous. But there might also be something useful inside. After careful consideration, they decided to head toward the lighthouse together. They climbed the stairs one careful step at a time. While the floor was rotted in places, the walls seemed solid. When they reached the top floor, Kevin let out a surprised cry. "Mom, look at this." In a corner of the lighthouse equipment, there was an old communication device. Probably used by the Coast Guard in the 1950s. It was covered in dust and didn't look operational at first glance. "Kevin, this is where your craft skills can shine," Jennifer placed her hand on her son's shoulder. "If we can fix this, we might be able to call for help." "Yes." Kevin's eyes lit up. "My craft teacher said that if you can figure out why something's broken, you can fix it." For the rest of the day, mother and son worked together to repair the communication device. Kevin's small hands skillfully handled the parts while Jennifer assisted. They cleaned each component, tightened loose screws, and polished rusty connections. As dusk approached and it became difficult to continue working, suddenly a faint noise came from the machine. "We did it!" Kevin jumped with joy. At that moment, tears welled up in Jennifer's eyes. Pride, relief, and gratitude toward her son overwhelmed her. They held each other tightly. Suddenly, a clear voice rang out from the communication device. "This is the Coast Guard." "Who is this?" Jennifer explained their situation with a trembling voice. She told them they were stranded on an uninhabited island near the Florida Keys, alone with her 8-year-old son, with limited water and food. "Understood. We are currently pinpointing your location. A rescue boat will be dispatched. Please remain where you are." When she heard those words, Jennifer made a vow in her heart. They had overcome this ordeal thanks to her son, without a doubt. From now on, she would help nurture his talents even more. Together, parent and child had learned the importance of never giving up, using their wisdom, and working together. As stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the sound of a helicopter approached from afar. A searchlight illuminated the island, and the rescue team descended. Kevin smiled through his tired face and squeezed Jennifer's hand tightly. "Mom, we did it." "Yes," Jennifer pulled her son close. "We made it through because we were together." As they boarded the rescue helicopter, they looked back at the island. Though it had only been 2 days, their experience on the island had strengthened the bond between mother and son. In the interrogation room at the Miami Coast Guard headquarters, Jennifer was giving her statement. Though tired, she explained the events in a steady voice. In the next room, a social worker was gently listening to Kevin's story. "So, under the pretense of a family vacation, you were taken to an uninhabited island and abandoned there," investigator Mike Reynolds confirmed while taking notes. The involved parties are your mother Barbara Miller, your father Robert Miller, your sister Susan Taylor, and her husband Tom Taylor. Is that correct? Yes, Jennifer answered quietly. But my father, he seemed to hesitate until the end. At that moment, there was a knock on the door, and an elderly man entered. Wearing a well-tailored suit, he presented his business card. I'm James Wilson Jr. I served as legal counsel to your grandmother, Margaret Wilson. Jennifer looked up in surprise. Her grandmother Margaret had passed away 5 years ago. She was a woman who had built up the regional famous bakery chain, Wilson's Homemade Bakery, from scratch. Actually, I have important information, Wilson continued with a solemn expression. Now that your mother has been arrested, I can finally tell you. He took documents from his black leather briefcase. It was a copy of her grandmother's will. Margaret changed her will 5 years ago. It names you as the sole heir to the chain's management rights and all assets. Me. Jennifer's voice trembled. But I heard my mother inherited everything. That's the heart of the matter, Wilson quietly continued his explanation. Margaret highly valued your sincerity and effort. On the other hand, she was concerned about Barbara's strong tendencies toward vanity and pretense. The air in the room grew tense. The will was scheduled to be opened on your 35th birthday, next month. However, Barbara somehow learned of its contents. And before it could be opened, she planned to eliminate you. He chose his words carefully. At that moment, all the pieces of her mother's abnormal behavior fell into place. The sudden proposal of a family vacation. The unnatural kindness. And that cruel betrayal. Then my father and sister too. Their accomplices, investigator Reynolds, who had returned to the interrogation room, announced. We've arrested them all. Messages found on Tom Taylor's cell phone show evidence of their planning. Jennifer let out a deep sigh. More than sadness, she felt emptiness in her heart. Just then, Kevin's laughter could be heard from the next room. Her son's cheerful voice softened her heart a little. What matters now is the future, Wilson spoke kindly. Margaret believed you would certainly manage the chain splendidly. And I share that conviction. The next day, local media widely reported the incident. Family betrayal over bakery chain inheritance, miraculous survival of mother and son abandoned on deserted island. While the headlines were sensational, the articles were largely factual. When preliminary hearings began, events moved quickly. Robert was the first to confess. He admitted to making poor judgments under his wife's strong influence and acknowledged that he had been troubled by his conscience until the end. Jennifer, I'm truly sorry, he apologized tearfully in court. I made the worst choice possible as a father. Meanwhile, Barbara maintained her defiant attitude until the end. I had legitimate rights, she insisted in court. That old woman ruined my life. Susan, along with her husband Tom, began negotiations with the prosecution for a plea deal. Her beautiful face had become haggard after several weeks in detention. Sis, please forgive me, Susan cried during questioning. We were all dancing to Mom's tune. The prosecution carefully built their case. They emphasized the high level of planning, attempted murder with intent, and above all, the inhumanity of involving an 8-year-old child. Lawyer Wilson continued to provide dedicated support as Jennifer's advisor. Perhaps Margaret foresaw something like this happening, he said. That's why she entrusted me with the role of guardian. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Evidence examination, witness testimony, and final arguments. The courtroom was filled daily with local residents and reporters. Finally, Judgment Day arrived. The judge delivered the verdict in a solemn voice. Defendant Barbara Miller, 7 years imprisonment. Defendant Robert Miller, 3 years imprisonment with 5 years probation. Defendants Susan Taylor and Tom Taylor, 2 years imprisonment each with 4 years probation. After the verdict, support grew even stronger. Encouraging letters arrived from local residents, and the media reported it as a triumph of justice. Many people were moved by the mother and son's courageous survival and their dignified attitude afterward. As she left the courthouse, Jennifer looked up at the sky. Heavy clouds were flowing, with light breaking through their gaps. "Mom, did we win?" Kevin asked as they walked hand in hand. "Yes," Jennifer drew her son close. "But our real victory starts now. Let's nurture the dream Grandma left for us together." That evening, Jennifer visited the main bakery store filled with her grandmother's memories. The scent of cinnamon in the air. Fresh baked bread lined up on display shelves. Pastries gleaming in glass cases. Everything welcomed her with the same warmth as 5 years ago. "Grandma," Jennifer whispered quietly. "I promise to live up to your faith in me." Outside the window, the setting sun gently colored the cityscape. One morning a year later, the aroma of bread wafted through the main store kitchen of Wilson's Homemade Bakery. Jennifer was by the window, checking recipes for new products. Sunlight caught her ring, casting small rainbows on the wall. "Mom, the first batch of cinnamon rolls is ready." Kevin proudly held up a tray fresh from the oven. Now 9 years old, he had become his mother's trusted confidant and partner. Every day after school, he would stop by the bakery, finish his homework, and then help in the kitchen. The dexterity he developed through crafts was now put to good use in making delicate pastries. "Perfect," Jennifer gently stroked her son's head. "You've inherited Grandma's flavor." Over the past year, Wilson's Homemade Bakery had grown significantly. While maintaining traditional flavors and incorporating new ideas, the chain had expanded from 15 to 23 stores. But what made Jennifer most proud was building trust with her employees. "Ma'am, the interviewer has arrived," Sarah, a staff member, called out. It was an interview for a local business magazine's Successful Women Entrepreneurs feature. As she left the kitchen, she saw a familiar face. "It's been a while, Jennifer." Her father Robert stood there, looking slightly nervous. On probation, he had earnestly participated in rehabilitation programs over the past year. They had begun exchanging letters 2 months ago. "Dad." Jennifer returned his smile, though with some hesitation. "Could I see Kevin?" His voice trembled. "Of course, only if you'll allow it." Jennifer thought for a moment, then called her son. Kevin was initially cautious as he looked at his grandfather's face, but when Robert presented him with a handmade wooden craft kit, he gradually began to open up. "Did you make this for me?" "Yes," Robert looked straight into his grandson's eyes. "I learned carpentry in the prison rehabilitation program." "I heard you like crafts." Since that day, Robert began visiting the store regularly. While atoning for his mistakes, he was slowly trying to rebuild bonds with his family. Barbara continued serving her sentence in prison. Several letters requesting visits had arrived, but Jennifer wasn't emotionally ready yet. However, her most recent letter contained, for the first time, words of sincere apology. Susan divorced her husband while on probation. she spent her days reflecting on herself through community service activities. Last week, she sent word that she had opened a small cafe. "This time, I want to build something with my own power," she wrote. "Jennifer, your business acumen is remarkable," said the visiting reporter, clearly impressed. "Moreover, this bakery has a wonderful warmth to it. It's as if the whole family is building it together." "Yes," Jennifer smiled. "We have wonderful employees. They're all like family to us." After the interview, she began preparing for the children's bakery class held at the nearby church. This was one of Jennifer's new initiatives. She wanted to create a place where children could learn the joy of baking while discussing family bonds. "Mom, everything's ready," Kevin reported happily. "Today, I'm going to teach everyone craft tips." At dusk, after closing the store, mother and son sat at the counter drinking special hot chocolate. Outside the window, the summer sunset gently illuminated the street. "Hey, Kevin," Jennifer asked her son. "Do you think we've found happiness?" "Yes," Kevin answered without hesitation. "Because I'm with you, Mom. And we've got new family members too, like Dad." Yes, 6 months ago, Jennifer had begun dating Michael, a pediatrician she met at the bakery class. The kind and sincere man was also a good friend to Kevin. "Mom," Kevin said with a serious expression. "Remember that time on the island? We worked hard together." "Yes," Jennifer hugged her son. "I got through it because you were with me then. And now too, I can move forward because you're here." The aroma of freshly baked bread filled the store. On the counter lay cinnamon rolls that Kevin had baked that morning. Her grandmother's recipe, now layered with new memories. Tomorrow, another day would begin from this place. The story of mother and son, who found hope for the future while carrying the pain of the past, would continue toward even greater happiness.